The sound hit before the meaning did. A stapler clattered onto the tile floor, and someone gasped too late to hide their shock. I stood at the back of the conference room, coffee cup halfway to my lips, watching Martin's hand rest proudly on his nephew's shoulder. "Effective today," Martin announced, his voice carrying that corporate cheerfulness that always preceded bad news. "Tyler will be taking over Brooke's enterprise accounts for our next growth phase." The words hung in the fluorescent-lit air. My coffee went cold in my hand. Tyler grinned too wide, his cologne sweet enough to taste from across the room. 23 years old with a fresh business degree and zero field experience. My phone buzzed 3 times in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know what the messages said. Clients who'd worked with me for years, suddenly hearing their accounts were being reassigned without warning. I smiled, a brittle thing that didn't reach my eyes, and said clearly, "Congratulations, Tyler." Inside, something burned clean and bright. This wasn't shock anymore. It was clarity. 10 minutes later, an Outlook notification blinked on my screen. Exit discussion in conference room B. The HR manager, Patricia, sat with her hands folded, her smile twitching like bad television static. A single folder lay between us, papers already prepared. "It's just restructuring, Brooke," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Nothing personal. The company's moving in a new direction." I signed my separation papers without reading them. My hand moved steady across the signature line. "Nothing personal," I echoed, as if saying it aloud made it true. Before I stood to leave, I slid a thick binder across the polished table. Blue tabs, yellow tabs, everything color-coded and labeled in my precise handwriting. "Transition Plan, Collins B." Patricia flipped the first page, her brow pinching slightly. "This is very thorough." "I know," I said quietly. Then I walked out, leaving the binder on the table like evidence at a crime scene. Walking back through the sales floor felt like moving underwater. I heard my own breath louder than the ringing phones around me. Colleagues glanced up, then quickly away. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked relieved it wasn't them. Inside my skull, words printed themselves like a newspaper headline, bold and unavoidable. CEO replaced me with his nephew. The client list I built ended his company. I didn't know how yet. The path wasn't clear. But I knew with absolute certainty that it would happen. Not because I was angry, though anger simmered beneath everything. But because I'd spent 8 years building systems that protected quality, and Tyler didn't understand what quality meant. He thought charm and a family name were enough. He was about to learn they weren't. I reached my desk and began packing my photos into a cardboard box. My hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over while my mind raced ahead, already planning. Back in conference room B, Patricia flipped through the binder I'd left, her confusion deepening with each page. She stopped at a blue tab marked, "Continuity of Service Clauses." Her eyes widened slightly. "You got Martin to sign these?" "With every client?" "Every quarter for the past 3 years," I said from the doorway. I'd come back to retrieve my badge. She looked up, startled. "These are binding?" "Legally airtight." My lawyer reviewed each one. Her mouth opened, then closed. I could see her trying to process what "opt out on lead reassignment plus KPI failure" actually meant in practice. "Why would Martin agree to this?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "Because I told him it protected the company's reputation." Which it did, as long as we maintained service standards. I left her sitting there, the binder open in front of her, finally understanding what she'd been part of dismissing. The clauses were my insurance policy. I'd written them thinking they'd protect clients from company negligence. I never imagined they'd protect me from this. Before betrayal, there were years of warehouses and bad coffee. I'd started at Northline Supply straight out of college, taking a junior sales position nobody else wanted. Industrial parts weren't glamorous. Cold calling warehouse managers meant learning forklift models by engine sound, understanding supply chains from loading dock to delivery. I'd worked weekends, missed holidays, spent countless hours in fluorescent-lit facilities that smelled like motor oil and cardboard. When clients hesitated about long-term contracts, I offered something competitors didn't. Trust, written into legally binding paper. These continuity clauses protect you, I'd explained during contract reviews. If we reassign your account and performance drops, you can opt out without penalty. Martin had laughed when I first proposed adding them. Fine, if it makes the clients happy. He signed without reading the fine print. Why would he? I was making him money. I'd smiled and filed the contracts carefully, never imagining I'd need them myself. But I'd built my career on preparation. And preparation was about to become my weapon. Tyler's first client call happened while I was still packing my desk. He didn't realize I could hear him through the thin conference room walls, or maybe he just didn't care. His voice carried, confident and careless. I know Brooke liked her checklists and procedures, he said, laughing. But we're faster now. More agile. I can get you those parts in 48 hours, guaranteed. I froze, a framed photo of my parents halfway into the box. 48 hours. Those parts took 10 days minimum, sometimes longer if suppliers had backorders. I'd spent years managing client expectations, building realistic timelines that we could actually meet. Tyler was making promises he couldn't keep, and he didn't even know it. My phone buzzed. A text from Alan at Continental Freight. Is he guessing, or does he actually know our supply chain? I stared at my reflection in the darkened computer monitor. Not angry. Just memorizing. Every word, every promise, every impossible guarantee. Tyler was building his own trap. I just needed to wait for him to step into it. My fingers hovered over my phone keyboard. Alan deserved the truth. He'd been my client for 6 years, trusted me with contracts worth millions. It would be so easy to warn him, to explain that Tyler was setting him up for disappointment. I typed a response. He doesn't understand your logistics requirements. Then I deleted it, character by character. No. This wasn't about revenge through sabotage. This was about ethics. I wouldn't poach clients or badmouth the company. That would make me look bitter, unprofessional. Worse, it would give Martin ammunition to paint me as the problem. Instead, I opened my email and sent a single message to the shared procurement drive. Per company policy, all client audit documentation, KPI reports, and compliance records have been uploaded and organized by account. Everything is complete. Professional. Helpful. Documented. I locked my laptop, slid it into my bag, and walked out of Northline Supply for what I thought was the last time. I was wrong about that part. 3 weeks later, I sat in my apartment for the quarterly vendor audit with Continental Freight. These reviews were mandatory, built into the contract I'd negotiated. Attendance was required from both client and supplier. I joined the video call on mute, camera off, listed as an observer since I technically no longer worked there. The client's procurement team appeared on screen, professional and prepared. The Northline box stayed empty. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Alan's face tightened. Is anyone from Northline joining us? Silence. Tyler had forgotten. Or more likely, he'd dismissed it as unnecessary paperwork. The kind of thing old school salespeople worried about. Alan exhaled slowly. This tells me what I needed to know about the transition. He paused, and I could see him making calculations behind his eyes. If we invoke the continuity clause, who coordinates the transition out? My heart hammered, but my voice stayed level. Independent third parties. There's a list of approved mediators in your contract appendix. Thank you, Brooke. The call ended. The clock had started. My last day at the office, I packed the remnants of my desk. Photos of my parents, a half-dead succulent I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years, my coffee mug with the chipped handle. Small pieces of 8 years reduced to a single cardboard box. Tyler strutted past, hands in his pockets, that same too-wide grin plastered across his face. "Hey Brooke, really appreciate all the groundwork you laid. I'm going to take these accounts to the next level." I looked up slowly, meeting his eyes. He thought this was friendly. Collegial. That we were on the same team. "Take care of them," I said quietly. He winked. "They'll be fine. Trust me." "They won't," I thought, but didn't say. Because Tyler didn't understand the difference between managing accounts and maintaining relationships. He thought clients stayed because of the company name. He'd learned soon enough that they stayed because of trust, consistency, and competence. 3 things he didn't have. I carried my box to the elevator, pressed the button, and didn't look back as the doors closed. That night, my phone lit up with a private number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Brooke, it's Alan from Continental Freight." His voice was careful, measured. "Is the account change official? Are you really gone?" "I am." A long pause. I could hear him breathing, thinking through implications. "Then we're starting the clause clock. 2 months, 2 KPI benchmarks. If Tyler misses either one, we're invoking our opt-out and you're our designated transition coordinator." My throat tightened. "Alan, I can't solicit clients. That's unethical." "You're not soliciting. We're invoking a contract term you wrote 3 years ago. You'll be paid as a neutral third party to manage our exit if performance drops." He paused. "You built this protection for us, Brooke. Don't be surprised when we use it." After we hung up, I sat in the dark of my apartment, phone glowing in my hand. This wasn't revenge I was planning anymore. It was survival. And maybe, just maybe, justice. I opened a blank document on my laptop. The cursor blinked in the empty white space, waiting. Title: Collins Continuity Consulting. Mission Statement: Transition Oversight and Compliance Monitoring for Enterprise Accounts Exercising Contractual Opt-out Clauses. No solicitation. No client data misuse. Just neutral, professional management of exits that companies had legally agreed to allow. This wasn't about anger or payback. This was about structure, systems, and letting poorly managed accounts fail on their own lack of merit. Revenge by documentation, not destruction. I spent the next week filing LLC paperwork, getting a business license, setting up a simple website. Nothing flashy. Just professional, clear, and completely above board. If clients invoked their clauses, I'd be ready. If they didn't, I'd find other work. But I wasn't going to let Martin's nepotism define my career. I'd built something valuable at Northline. Now I'd build something valuable that belonged only to me. My lawyer, Marcus, read through the continuity clauses I'd written, his glasses sliding down his nose as he studied each paragraph. After 20 minutes, he looked up with something like admiration. "These are enforceable. Ironclad, actually. You wrote in specific performance metrics, defined failure conditions, and included neutral mediation provisions." He flipped another page. "How did you get corporate counsel to approve these?" "I framed them as client retention tools," I explained. "Protection against our own mistakes. Martin's lawyer rubber-stamped them because they made us look professional." Marcus smiled. "They are professional. They're also going to protect you now." He closed the folder. "If clients invoke these clauses, you're legally clear to serve as transition coordinator. You're not poaching. You're fulfilling a contractual obligation they agreed to." "Good," I said, standing to leave. My voice was calm, steady. Then I don't need to raise my voice or badmouth anyone. I just need to let Tyler's work speak for itself. 2 weeks after I left, Tyler's face appeared on my LinkedIn feed. He was standing next to Martin beneath a banner that read, "Next Generation Leadership Summit." Both men grinning, arms crossed, radiating confidence. Tyler had captioned the photo, "Excited to streamline legacy processes and bring Northline into the modern era. Time to cut the red tape and focus on results." I stared at the words, legacy processes. That was what he called my quality control systems. The checklists I developed over 8 years to ensure accuracy. The verification steps that caught errors before they reached clients. Tyler had deleted them. I knew because a former colleague, Hannah, had messaged me privately. He called a team meeting and said we're moving too slow. Told everyone to skip the verification protocols and just process orders faster. My hands clenched around my phone. Faster wasn't better if it meant shipping wrong parts to the wrong warehouses. But Tyler would learn that lesson the expensive way. 4 weeks after the transition, the first failure hit. A major shipment to Ridgefast Manufacturing missed its delivery window by 3 days. Not because of supplier delays. Because Tyler had skipped the expedite request I'd always filed for their time-sensitive orders. The client logged a formal KPI failure in their system. 1 strike down, 1 to go before they could invoke their opt-out. Tyler blamed the shipping company in an email I saw forwarded through the chain. Martin smoothed things over with a personal call and a small discount. Apologetic, charming, promising it wouldn't happen again. But it would. Because the problem wasn't the shipping company. It was Tyler's fundamental misunderstanding of how logistics worked. He thought speed meant cutting steps. I'd known speed meant starting the process earlier. That night, I updated my spreadsheet. Continental Freight, 45 days into their monitoring period. Ridgefast Manufacturing, first KPI failure logged. The dominoes were starting to fall, exactly as I'd known they would. Martin's email hit my inbox like a slap. Subject line, urgent consultation needed. The message was short, barely polite. Brooke, we're experiencing some transition difficulties with your former accounts. We need you to consult immediately. This situation is largely due to incomplete handoff documentation. Please respond ASAP. I read it 3 times, feeling my jaw tighten with each pass. Incomplete handoff documentation. I'd left a 60-page binder with every procedure, contact, and contingency documented. I'd uploaded 8 years of records to the shared drive. I'd offered 2 weeks of transition time that they'd cut to 3 days. This wasn't about incomplete documentation. This was about Tyler ignoring everything I'd provided because he thought he knew better. I clicked reply and typed 1 sentence. All transition materials were provided per company policy. Best of luck with your continued growth. Then I archived Martin's email and blocked his address. I wasn't coming back to fix his nephew's mess. Not for any price. 6 weeks after my departure, Continental Freight sent the formal notice. Subject, Invocation of Continuity Clause, Section 4.2b. The email was professional, almost apologetic. They'd logged 2 KPI failures. Tyler had missed delivery windows and provided incorrect technical specifications for a custom order. Per the contract terms I'd written, they were exercising their right to transition out. And per the same contract, they were naming Collins Continuity Consulting as their neutral oversight coordinator. My phone rang 5 minutes after the email arrived. Marcus, my lawyer. Brooke, you're completely clear to accept this. The contract explicitly allows it. You're not soliciting, you're not competing, you're fulfilling a mediation role that Northline agreed to 3 years ago. I stared out my apartment window at the city below. Martin's going to claim I engineered this. Let him. You have documentation proving every clause was approved by corporate counsel. If he wants to sue, he'll lose, and look petty doing it. I took a breath. Okay. I'll accept the coordination role. The client review call was scheduled for Tuesday morning. I joined as an observer again, muted and off camera, while Tyler presented his plan to recover the relationship. He'd clearly prepared, probably with Martin's help. Buzzwords piled up like sandbags against a flood. Supply chain turbulence, market volatility, optimization of resource allocation. The Continental Freight procurement team listened in polite silence. When Tyler finished, Alan asked one question. Can you provide the data supporting your delivery timeline projections? Silence. Tyler fumbled. I can get that to you by end of week. We need it now. This is a review call. The data should be prepared. More silence. I could picture Tyler's face reddening, that confident grin finally cracking. We'll schedule a follow-up, Martin interjected smoothly. Give us 48 hours. Alan's voice hardened. No. We're moving to the next phase. We'll schedule a site audit of your fulfillment operations. The call ended. Tyler had failed again, and this time there were witnesses. The warehouse audit happened on a gray Thursday morning. I attended as the designated transition coordinator, wearing business casual and carrying a tablet for notes. The space smelled like motor oil and panic. Continental Freight's QA lead, Maria, walked slowly through the aisles, photographing everything. Shelves that used to be organized by my color-coded system were now chaotic, SKUs merged together under vague labels like fasteners and miscellaneous parts. Who changed the organization system? Maria asked the floor manager. He shifted uncomfortably. New management wanted to simplify things. Make it more intuitive. Intuitive for who? She photographed a bin containing 3 different part types mixed together. Who built the original system? Brooke Collins, he said quietly. She color-coded everything by specification and usage frequency. Maria turned to me, her expression saying everything words couldn't. I kept my face neutral, professional. But inside, vindication burned bright. This wasn't sabotage. This was the natural consequence of dismantling systems you didn't understand. That afternoon, my email dinged with a message forwarded by mistake. The sender was a parts supplier Tyler had been working with, but they'd accidentally included me on the thread because my address was still in their system. The email chain showed Tyler frantically begging for rush orders on components I'd forecast and ordered 3 months in advance. My old purchasing schedules were attached, time-stamped and accurate to the day. Proof of who'd actually done the planning work. The supplier's response was diplomatic but clear. These lead times require advance notice we no longer have. Best we can offer is partial fulfillment in 3 weeks. I forwarded the chain to my personal archive without comment. More documentation. More evidence that Tyler's failures weren't about market conditions or bad luck. They were about inexperience trying to replace expertise. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine, looking at the growing folder of failures. I hadn't caused any of this. I'd simply built systems that required competence to maintain. Tyler had dismantled those systems. Now he was learning why they'd existed in the first place. Desperate to retain clients, Tyler launched what he called a loyalty initiative. Really, it was a panic move. Deep discounts on services, special rates that weren't special so much as unsustainable. I heard about it from Hannah, who messaged me screenshots of the internal announcement. Tyler's offering 20% below contract rates to any client who commits to a 2-year extension. I stared at the numbers. Those rates would break the margin structure completely. Worse, several of the contracts I'd negotiated had clauses about pricing consistency. Offering some clients better rates than others without cause violated those terms. That was a financial breach, potentially worse than service failures. Within a week, 3 clients filed formal complaints. Not about the discount itself, but about the discriminatory pricing that violated their contract terms. Ridgefast Manufacturing was one of them. Their contract included a most favored customer clause I'd negotiated specifically to protect them. Tyler had just given them grounds to exit. And unlike service failures, financial breaches were immediate. No 2-month monitoring period. Just instant opt-out rights. The credit started tightening 2 months after I left. Ridgefast Manufacturing, burned by Tyler's discount disaster, demanded cash on delivery for their next order. No more net 30 terms. No more trust. Martin's calm facade finally cracked. I heard about the all-hands meeting from Hannah, who called me that night. He was yelling. Actually yelling. Told Tyler to fix the Ridgefast situation immediately or there'd be consequences. What did Tyler say? Hannah's voice dropped. He mumbled something about adjusting expectations and managing difficult clients. Martin looked like he wanted to throw something. I thanked her and hung up, feeling no satisfaction. Just inevitability. Tyler had thought managing accounts meant smiling and making promises. He'd never understood that client relationships were built on delivering what you promised, every single time. Without that foundation, everything collapsed. And it was collapsing now, in real time, exactly as the system I'd built had predicted it would. Not because I'd sabotaged anything. Because quality matters, and Tyler had none. One by one, accounts exercised their opt-out clauses. Continental Freight first, then Ridgefast, then Peterson Industrial. No drama, no angry calls. Just professional notifications citing contract terms and performance failures. Each transition was overseen by Collins Continuity Consulting. Each exit was clean, documented, legally airtight. I coordinated handoffs to competing suppliers, managed the transfer of order histories, ensured no disruption to the client's operations. Professional. Neutral. Exactly as the contract specified. Martin sent messages to staff calling it temporary turbulence and market readjustment. But the numbers told a different story. Revenue down 30% in 2 months. Client retention at historic lows. Hannah told me people were updating their resumes, quietly looking for exits before the ship went down completely. I felt no joy in any of it. Just a quiet certainty that this was justice, not revenge. Systems worked or they didn't. Tyler's approach didn't work. The market was simply correcting his incompetence. 3 months after my departure, I sat in a gray conference room as a silent observer. Northline's bankers had called a covenant review meeting, and as transition coordinator for multiple exiting accounts, I was required to attend for documentation purposes. The numbers projected on the screen were brutal. Revenue down 42%. 3 major accounts gone, 5 more in monitoring periods. Breach of loan covenants confirmed. Martin tried his usual charm, talking about recovery plans and market opportunities. The bankers spoke in decimals and debt ratios. Cold math that didn't care about confidence or family connections. Halfway through the presentation, Martin's eyes found me in the back corner. His face went pale, finally understanding that I was there, witnessing the collapse. I said nothing. Didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just took notes on my tablet, professional and detached. This wasn't personal anymore. It was just business failing because leadership had valued loyalty over competence. The meeting ended with the banks demanding immediate restructuring. Martin left without looking at anyone. The final flagship account, Westbridge Logistics, held out longer than the others. They'd been with Northline for 12 years, and their CEO had a personal friendship with Martin. But friendship only stretched so far when orders were wrong and deliveries were late. The call came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Westbridge's procurement director, calm and apologetic. We're invoking our continuity clause. This isn't personal, but we can't operate with this level of unreliability. Tyler's voice cracked on the speaker. Please reconsider. I can fix this. Give me one more chance. We've given several chances, she replied. The contract allows us to exit after documented failures. We're exercising that right. I guided the exit process, factual and polite, exactly as I'd done with the others. When the call ended, the conference room fell silent. Tyler sat with his head in his hands. Martin stared at the wall. I closed my laptop, gathered my notes, and left without a word. There was nothing left to say. 3 months later, Northline Supply ceased operations. The announcement came through industry channels, clinical and brief. Assets sold, staff laid off, Martin resigned from the board. Tyler vanished from LinkedIn entirely, his profile deleted or hidden. I moved Collins Continuity into a modest downtown office with exposed brick and good light. My plants thrived on the windowsill. Former clients sent holiday cards and gift baskets, not out of pity, but respect. Some hired me for ongoing consulting work. Others referred new business. I never bragged about what happened. Never posted victory messages on social media or gave interviews about Northline's collapse. Because real revenge doesn't announce itself. It documents, timestamps, and waits patiently for incompetence to reveal itself. I'd built systems that protected quality. Tyler had dismantled those systems thinking they were obstacles. The market had simply shown him why they'd existed. Sometimes the best revenge is knowing your worth, building protections into your work, and letting arrogance destroy itself while you watch from a safe distance with all the receipts. I'd done exactly that. And now I was free.